Remember when Jim looked straight into the camera, Pam said nothing and meant everything, and Dwight filed a formal complaint? Behind that show was a near cancellation and secrets NBC never knew about. Today we're counting down 15 weird facts you never knew about The Office. Number 15. The American pilot feels slightly off from the start. Looser, softer, more like a copy than a creation. That was completely intentional. Greg Daniels told The Hollywood Reporter's 2025 anniversary oral history that he originally planned an entirely different premiere built around a company awards show, the concept that became The Dundies in Season 2. He pulled it back deliberately. His explanation? I started to become worried that the NBC development machines would note it too much if it was a completely new script, so I said I'm going to do a little Americanization of the British pilot. We avoided all the notes process on the pilot, because it was just a small rewrite. The result recycled large blocks of Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant's BBC dialogue, almost verbatim. Steve Carell later told interviewers he stopped watching the UK original after half an episode, so he would not accidentally copy Gervais. The irony is that Daniels had used that same UK script to protect the American show from network interference. The pilot's stiffness was a survival move, not a creative failure. Daniels sacrificed originality to dodge the notes process, and in doing so, shielded the writer's room long enough to build something those notes never could have produced. The show had another secret it had been keeping from the start. It was never actually filmed where it claimed to take place. Number 14. The Scranton welcome sign. The brick exterior, the parking lot where Jim and Pam share dozens of their most important moments. All of it feels authentic to northeastern Pennsylvania. The only footage actually shot in Scranton was the opening credits B-roll of that welcome sign, which John Krasinski shot through the sunroof of a friend's Jeep, per his account on the Office Ladies podcast. Season 1 filmed in a real working office building at 3322 La Cienega Place in Culver City. From Season 2 onward, production moved to Chandler Valley Center Studios in Panorama City. Art director Matt Flynn explained to Architectural Digest that Greg Daniels chose the off-lot facility because he didn't want the show to be shot on a studio lot with a bunch of other sitcoms. He didn't want that sitcom feel to rub off on The Office. Jim and Pam's house is a real Van Nuys home at 13,831 Calvert Street. Schrute Farms was filmed at Disney's Golden Oak Ranch in Santa Clarita. The Dunder Mifflin parking lot that feels unmistakably like Pennsylvania is a Panorama City exterior, confirmed on the Office Ladies podcast. Every exterior landmark that feels like Scranton is a different neighborhood of the San Fernando Valley. The geography of the show is entirely constructed, and the casting that built that world was just as constructed. Some of the most iconic roles were nearly played by completely different people. Number 13. Daryl Philbin became one of the show's most beloved characters. Most people do not know that his very first scene required 15 takes and had no dialogue whatsoever. Craig Robinson told TV Insider in March 2025 that he got the audition because Greg Daniels had seen him in a viral comedy short with Jerry Minor. Daniels told Robinson at the meeting, "Yeah, I saw your video. It doesn't get any funnier than that." Robinson still had to earn the part, and the moment that defined his character was nothing more than a look. His debut in Season 1, Episode 4, The Alliance, required only a reaction shot. When Dwight pops out of a box in the warehouse, Daryl simply stares at him. Robinson told TV Insider, "I just kind of looked at him. And believe it or not, that took like 15 takes." Greg Daniels had deliberately built the warehouse as an expansion beyond the UK format. Daryl became the emotional bridge between Michael's white-collar world and the working-class Scranton the writers wanted to honor. Every Daryl stare and deadpan reaction has a 15-take origin. He was always doing the hardest thing in comedy, which is nothing at all. Another cast member nearly derailed his career before his audition began, by insulting the showrunner to his face. Number 12. Jim Halpert's easy charm and those knowing looks at the camera feel completely natural. Like Krasinski was always the only choice. He almost never got the audition. Per Krasinski's account on Sam Jones's off-camera interview show, he had been told to read for Dwight. He told his manager he wanted Jim. The NBC casting reaction came back, "No, but honestly, who does he think he is?" He got the Jim slot anyway. On lunch break before his audition, a man sat next to him with a salad and asked if he was nervous. Krasinski said he was worried that the show is going to ruin the British version because so often these translations are just garbage. The man said, "I'll try my best. I'm Greg Daniels." Krasinski said he barfed in his own mouth and called his agent in a panic before walking into the room. Per off-camera, everyone was already laughing because I was such a moron. Daniels later said Krasinski felt like our Jim immediately. Other Jim finalists included Adam Scott, Josh Radnor, Hamish Linklater, and John Cho. Jim's casual, slightly sheepish comfort on camera had a very specific real-world origin. He had just done the most embarrassing thing of his professional life and still had to nail the audition. The woman cast as Pam won her role with something even smaller, one improvised word. Number 11, Pam Beesly's quiet restraint, what she does not say is almost always more powerful than what she does, became one of the show's most iconic performances. Here is what it took. Casting director Allison Jones gave Jenna Fischer 2 specific instructions before the audition, as Fischer described on Dana Carvey and David Spade's Fly on the Wall podcast in 2025. Jones told her, "Don't come in looking hot. Then, we're going to have you improvise during the audition, and my advice is, dare to bore me." Greg Daniels conducted the audition in character as a documentary filmmaker. He asked, "Do you like being a receptionist here?" Fischer paused, then said only, "No. I thought it would be funnier to watch me think of all the things I wasn't going to say than to say any of them," she told the podcast. Daniels later told her that single beat got me the job. Director Ken Kwapis told Brian Baumgartner's An Oral History of the Office podcast that Fischer was so quiet in the waiting area he actually started wondering if she was there by mistake. Other Pam finalists included Kathryn Hahn, Mary Lynn Rajkub, and Angela Kinsey, who was redirected to the Angela Martin role on the spot. Every moment when Pam says almost nothing and the camera holds on her face was built from that exact technique. The actor who became Dwight turned down the wrong role first and has the footage to prove it. Number 10. Dwight Schrute is one of the most precisely constructed comedic characters in television history. Rainn Wilson first auditioned for an entirely different role and produced what he considers the most embarrassing footage of his career. As he told the We're Here to Help podcast with Jake Johnson, "Allison Jones keeps threatening to release my Michael Scott audition. It is truly terrible because I just did a Ricky Gervais impersonation. I didn't know what else to do, so I was kind of pulling on my tie a lot." Wilson was the first actor to audition on the very first casting day. He almost was not available. He was attached to a Janine Garofalo pilot with Marc Maron. As Wilson told Theo Von's This Past Weekend podcast, the read-through went so bad they pulled the plug on the spot. That cancellation freed him to read for Dwight. Greg Daniels rented a location for a weekend and ran extended improv sessions mixing and matching actors. Other candidates reportedly included Seth Rogen, Patton Oswalt, and Judah Friedlander. Wilson told We're Here to Help that reading for Dwight, "I was like, this is completely in my wheelhouse. I have cousins who are really not that different from Dwight Schrute." Dwight exists because a failed pilot freed the one actor who instinctively understood the character. Michael Scott himself was almost someone else entirely. Number 9. Michael Scott is so completely Steve Carell that imagining anyone else feels impossible. Carell was not the first choice, the second, or the third. Per Andy Green's book The Office, the untold story of the greatest sitcom of the 2000s, early casting discussions included Philip Seymour Hoffman, Paul Giamatti, Dan Aykroyd, Eugene Levy, and Stephen Colbert. Both Hoffman and Giamatti were formally offered the role and declined. Louis C.K. read for it but had a CBS holding deal. The frontrunner was Bob Odenkirk. Casting director Allison Jones told the Office Ladies podcast, "Bob Odenkirk would have been amazing." She described his audition as funny as Steve's, but it was darker. Producer Ben Silverman told Green he was available. He had a great reputation in the comedy world, and he hadn't yet become famous. Carell was unavailable, under contract to NBC's Come to Papa with Tom Papa, when that show was canceled after 4 episodes. Carell was free. Odenkirk eventually appeared in the season 9 episode Moving On, as a Philadelphia manager named Mark whose mannerisms are an unmistakable Michael Scott echo. The writers acknowledged the parallel in their room, per Green's book. Even the show that failed to cast Michael Scott found a way to honor the road not taken. And even after Carell was finally cast, the show nearly ended before most viewers had seen a single episode. Number 8. It is easy to forget how close the show came to disappearing. 6 episodes, mixed reviews, a skeptical network. Writer Mike Schur described the season 1 wrap to Vox. "There was a moment when we were shooting the last episode where the cast was sort of huddled outside and everyone was a little bit glum. I remember Steve looking around at the cast and saying, "Hey, we got to make 6. Schur added, "Ordinarily, 99 times out of 100, that show is canceled." 3 things saved it. NBC president Kevin Reilly personally championed the renewal. Steve Carell starred in Judd Apatow's The 40-Year-Old Virgin between seasons 1 and 2, which grossed $177 million worldwide, against a $26 million budget. And The Office became one of the first TV shows sold on iTunes. The December 2005 Christmas Party episode hit number 1. Rainn Wilson told Brian Baumgartner on an oral history of The Office, "It was young people with iPods who knew how to set up an iTunes account because their parents didn't. That blindsided everyone, including NBC." Season 2 averaged 8 million viewers, up 80% over Season 1. NBC cut the production budget in half as part of the renewal deal. The warmth of Season 2 was funded by a movie nobody on the show had made and a platform the network had not taken seriously. The episode that defined Season 2's potential almost did not survive the censors. All right, we're at the halfway mark, and things are about to get even wilder. Before we hit the top 7, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite The Office moment? Drop it in the comments. If you're enjoying this, smash that like button and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. Number 7. Diversity Day told audiences the American Office was going to go somewhere genuinely uncomfortable and earn it. The production story behind the episode is just as complicated. BJ Novak wrote the script. The role of Mr. Brown had not been cast when the table read happened. Greg Daniels asked Larry Wilmore, a writer on the show, to read it cold. Daniels thought he was perfect, but SAG rules required Wilmore to formally audition against other actors anyway, per the Uproxx oral history by Ashley Burns and Chloe Schildhauses from March 2015. The production filmed Steve Carell performing a famous stand-up routine complete and unedited. Greg Daniels personally bleeped the slur from the master tape and refused to let raw footage leave the set. The episode became NBC's first full online debut, streamed on MySpace on March 16, 2005, nearly 2 weeks before its broadcast premiere. Carell improvised the line, "Now she knows what it's like to be a minority," after Kelly slaps Michael. The slap itself was unscripted. Mindy Kaling told The Hollywood Reporter that the episode's power came partly from the ensemble's specific diversity, calling it sheer luck that Novak had written it as episode 2. The slap was real, and the line after it was made up on the spot. A later landmark episode required something even more committed from Carell, and viewers never knew they were looking at his actual foot. Number 6. Michael Scott burning his foot on a George Foreman grill because he likes to wake up to the smell of bacon is one of the show's most beloved premises. It almost had a completely different setup. The injury began as a Greg Daniels room idea that Mindy Kaling described on the Office Ladies podcast as spinning out of control. The original title was My Grilled Foot. Kaling thought that was too weird for people to tune in and watch. The original concept had Michael falling asleep in the sun with sunblock everywhere except his foot. The Foreman grill explanation came later in the writing process. Here is the detail most people do not know. The close-up of the burned foot on screen is Steve Carell's actual foot. Practical makeup grill marks, no stunt double. Jenna Fischer confirmed it on the Office Ladies episode breakdown. Kaling has said the writers compared Dwight's concussion subplot to Daniel Keyes' novel Flowers for Algernon. The Chuck E. Cheese line was an unscripted Carell beat. Kaling told the Office Ladies that at the time, nobody in the writer's room was particularly satisfied with the episode. It became one of the show's most rewatched. The close-up that makes the premise believable is the real thing, Carell's actual foot, with practical makeup because nobody thought to use a double. The episode Carell chose as his personal farewell gift had been seeded as a joke for 9 years. Michael Scott's in-show action film had been a running joke since season 2. Turning it into a full episode was Steve Carell's personal request, made in a studio parking lot. BJ Novak described the pitch on episode 151 of the Office Ladies podcast. Greg Daniels had asked Carell what he wanted to do before leaving. A few days later, Carell flagged Novak down at the studio in his suit and untucked shirt holding one of those styrofoam plates, and said, "I realized the episode I want to do. I want to see Threat Level Midnight." Building it was a massive continuity exercise. The episode required reconstructing every actor's hair, makeup, and wardrobe from multiple prior seasons. Producer Randy Cordray's memo to casting director Allison Jones, read on the Office Ladies podcast, stated, "We need all these actors to be willing to look like they did in seasons 2 and 3. Editor David Rogers and script supervisor Veda Samarni mapped every actor's in-universe timeline. Karen Filippelli's scenes had to be set after the corporate merger. Helene's scenes had to fall during Michael's season 6 relationship with her, per Novak's Q&A on Office Tally. Novak revealed that David Wallace was Michael's in-universe first choice for the villain, but turned it down because it wouldn't look good to people at corporate. Jim got the part. Threat Level Midnight is not a joke about bad filmmaking. It is the most meticulous episode the show ever produced, disguised as its sloppiest. Number 4. The Niagara Wedding episode remains one of the most emotionally satisfying payoffs in the show's run. It was this close to being ruined by a horse. According to Jenna Fischer and Angela Kinsey's 2022 book The Office BFFs, the chapel at Niagara Falls, Walter H. Staves Chapel, was chosen specifically for its wide double-door entrance. That entrance was needed for a scripted scene in which Roy rides in on a horse to interrupt the ceremony. People on set openly protested. The reaction was direct: "Don't ruin Jim and Pam's wedding with a horse." Greg Daniels relented. The flash mob dance that replaced the horse entrance was a direct restaging of the viral July 2009 YouTube video JK Wedding Entrance Dance, which had accumulated more than 3.5 million views in its first 48 hours and ranked as the third most watched video on YouTube. That year, the entire sequence was nailed in a single first take. Per the Office Ladies podcast, the Maid of the Mist boat scenes were filmed on the actual tourist vessel with paying passengers, still on board. John Krasinski filmed the entire episode while battling a flu, per the Office BFFs. The episode was written by Greg Daniels and Mindy Kaling and directed by Paul Feig. The most beloved wedding in television comedy was one conversation away from a horse. When Carell eventually left, the plan to replace him involved one of the strangest financial deals in television history. Number 3. The Season 8 search for a new Dunder Mifflin manager produced Will Ferrell, then James Spader. What it almost produced was the star of The Sopranos running a paper company in Pennsylvania. Per Andy Green's book The Office, the untold story of the greatest sitcom of the 2000s, the producer's first choice to replace Steve Carell was James Gandolfini. Writer Daniel Chun told Green that Gandolfini wasn't super familiar with the show and was really unsure about comedy. The payment that kept Gandolfini from taking the job was publicly disclosed by Steve Schirripa on the Talking Sopranos podcast. With Ricky Gervais as guest, Schirripa stated that HBO paid Gandolfini $3 million not to take the role. The part went instead to James Spader as Robert California, a character introduced in the Season 7 finale alongside Ricky Gervais, Will Arnett, Ray Romano, and Catherine Tate. Spader told Andy Green he accepted partly for financial reasons. "I knew I was going to need some money because I was hemorrhaging cash." Will Ferrell's bridge character D'Angelo Vickers was designed in collaboration with the writing staff and limited to 4 episodes by mutual agreement. Robert California only exists because Tony Soprano was contractually unavailable. The real reason Steve Carell left has never been fully told, and the documented version is not the one that went to the press. Number 2. The official story of Steve Carell's departure was that he wanted more time with his family. Clean, graceful, after 7 seasons. The account in Andy Green's 2020 book is less clean. Hairstylist Kim Ferry told Green he didn't want to leave the show. He had told the network that he was going to sign for another couple of years. He was willing to, and his agent was willing to. But for some reason, they didn't contact him. The deadline came for when they were supposed to give him an offer, and it passed, and they didn't make him an offer. Producer Randy Cordray told Green that the failure followed a regime change at NBC. Incoming chairman Bob Greenblatt, he said, was not as big a fan of The Office as we wished he would have been. Carell has never publicly confirmed this. He received 6 consecutive Emmy nominations for Michael Scott from 2006 to 2011, and lost all 6 per Deadline's June 2011 coverage. Rainn Wilson responded to the 2011 loss, "The world of TV should be ashamed of itself that Steve Carell never won an Emmy for Michael Gary Scott." Michael Scott's farewell was shaped by a contract deadline that passed without a phone call. The goodbye was not a choice. What happened when the show tried to bring him back for the finale involved hidden footage, a fake table read, and an entire cast asked to lie to the press for nearly a year. Number 1. Steve Carell's surprise return in the series finale is one of the most effective moments in the show's run. Michael Scott appears without announcement, walks into Dwight's wedding, says almost nothing, and the audience cries. Almost no one knew how extensively the production deceived everyone to protect it. Jenna Fischer recounted on the Office Ladies finale rewatch in October 2024 that Carell was initially reluctant. He felt like Michael's story had really ended. He didn't want to come back and have this finale be about him. Greg Daniels reframed it as a small cameo. Carell agreed, and per Fischer signed a secret contract that was kept under lock and key. At the January 2013 TCA press tour, Daniels publicly said Carell had no plans to return. At Sundance, Carell told Access Hollywood, reported by Deadline, "I just didn't think it was right for the character." Inside production, Daniels went further. In a May 2013 Entertainment Weekly postmortem confirmed by Office Tally, "We shot the Steve stuff and kept it out of the dailies. At the table reading, we gave the Steve Carell lines to Creed. Creed Bratton read Michael's lines at the table read, so nothing would leak." NBC was kept in the dark until just before broadcast. When Carell arrived, Angela Kinsey described it on the Office Ladies podcast. The set PA said, "Steve is here." I opened the door, and there he was. After broadcast, Carell told TV Line, "I lied for months." Let that sink in. The Office premiered on NBC on March 24, 2005 as a 6-episode test run nobody believed in. A recycled pilot, a cast of unknowns, a fictional Pennsylvania city filmed in the San Fernando Valley, and a writer's room that expected cancellation. It survived because a box office hit made a movie star out of its lead, because iTunes put one episode at #1 on a platform the network had not taken seriously, and because a showrunner protected every creative decision with tools ranging from a one-word audition to a secret contract hidden from NBC. If this video surprised you, drop your favorite fact in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves the show as much as you do. And as always, that's what she said. We'll see you next time.